Hey, welcome back. Good to have you here. It's always good to have you here. Please take a moment to click the like button. It's right down there. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already because, we're building a big peer group. You want to be a part of things. And if you really like this video, share it. We would very much appreciate it. Today, we're going to talk about radio. This is a handheld radio unit. If you're going to fly, the reality is you don't need a radio for most of the airspace. Echo and Gulf airspace don't require radios in aircraft. And just as a refresher, Gulf airspace in general goes from ground up to 700 feet or up to 1,200 feet. Echo airspace starts at that 700 feet or 1,200 feet and keeps on going up until it either hits some overlying airspace or makes it up to alpha at 18,000 feet. So in most of America, as you fly around in your awesome little airplane, you do not need to be talking to anybody on the radio. But if you're going to go any place with much of a population, you're likely to run into controlled airspace. That's going to be Delta, a Delta airport, a regional local airport. You're going to see a Charlie, which is a bigger, more complex airport, or a Bravo, which is New York, Boston, Las Vegas, Orlando, Los Angeles. It's all controlled airspace and you will absolutely need a radio. So with that in mind, let's consider how do we actually use the radio and how do we use it in such a way that it's beneficial to us without pissing everybody else off. Now, as I said, this is a handheld model. It's less than a pound. It's maybe $200 total. And the reason I have this one, beyond the fact that I generally carry it in my flight bag as a backup with an antenna, but I also have it because I once owned a 1940 J3 Cub. The Piper Cub is a brilliant airplane, absolutely iconic, all kinds of fun to fly, but it was not built with an electrical system. So there are no lights, there's no electric starter, and there is no radio. And even though I fly out of a Class Gulf airport, a non-towered airport, and I spend most of my time in Gulf airspace or Echo airspace where I don't need a radio, I like having one. Information is beneficial. So my ability to hear other people, to talk to air traffic control, to get some sense of what's going on around me is enhanced greatly by having a radio. So it's important that I not only have one on hand, but that I know how to use it appropriately. Now, this may not make sense to a younger generation who's used to a smartphone with an app, but in the old days, when I had hair, we used to pick up the phone and order pizza to get delivered to the house. And that is a key element of how to use the radio. Believe it or not, all we really have to do is think in those terms. What if I was ordering pizza? The problem is people will get all verbose on the radio and start blabbering away about all sorts of things that don't matter, and maybe they never get around to the things that really do matter. So let's talk about what you've got to do to be functional on the radio. It's always amazed me a bit, and it may be because my background is as a professional musician before I got into aviation. Speaking into a microphone never bothered me much. But when I became a flight instructor, it really astonished me how many people would push that push to talk button and freeze up or just start babbling away telling the story of their life. Neither one of those is a good option. What you want to do is be brief, be specific, and be gone. That's the whole deal. When we talk on the radio, whether we're at a non-towered airport in the middle of nowhere, just self-announcing in the hopes that somebody hears us, or whether we're in New York Center, it's really the same thing all the time. Who am I? Where am I? What do I want? Let go of the button. We're done now. So it really is a very simple call no matter what. Who I am might be Piper Cherokee 12345. Where am I? 10 miles south. What do I want? Inbound full stop with the information. And of course, the information would be Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, something along those lines. But that's the basics at a towered airport. If I'm at a non-towered airport, I'm just calling in Cessna 12345, 10 miles south, inbound full stop. That's pretty much it. Now, at a non-towered airport, we do want to throw in one additional thing. We want to talk about where we're talking to. Which airport are we dealing with? My home airport, the radio frequency for the Common Traffic Advisory frequency is 123.05. That same frequency is in use by 4 other airports that are within earshot. So it's really important that I say the name of the airport at the beginning and the end of my transmission, so that when I say Winter Haven traffic and give my spiel, the people in Tampa on that same frequency know it's not them. Or the people in Orlando, Apopka, or Sebastian, or Clewiston, they know I'm not talking to them, I'm talking to the Winter Haven pilots. I would be remiss in my duties as a CFI if I didn't point out these 3 major no-nos that have become really common in the airspace around non-towered airports. 1, people calling in just randomly to say, any traffic in the area, please advise. The FAA actually has documentation. Don't say that. It's a pointless call. It takes up bandwidth. It's just not good. Don't do it. Number 2, people who call in and identify themselves as White Cessna. Well, there are thousands and thousands of those. There's only one with your N number. Do what the FAA asks. Identify yourself by N number and type. Skyhawk 12345, Cherokee 123 Alpha Bravo. Do something that's specific. Don't identify yourself by a color. And a particular annoyance to my good buddy Pat Brown, last call. I don't know where this came from. In the last few years, people have started popping up as they're leaving non-towered airports. They say, last call. I don't know why they think somebody's going to reach out to them later. I don't know why they think we're going to miss them, but you would never say that to a towered airport. Don't say it at a non-towered airport. Those 3 things are a big deal. So please, at a non-towered airport, be brief, be specific, and be done. It's really pretty simple. So whether we're carrying a portable radio in our bag just as a backup, or we use one with an external antenna hookup so that in our non-electrical J3 or Champ or T-Craft, we have all the radio capability of our Cirrus and Bonanza buddies, or whether we've got that panel mount that's just terrific and it's all digital and preset, knowing how to use the radio effectively and practicing a little so we're not getting all tongue-tied and not sure what to say makes all the difference. I'll give you an example. I was coming home from a long cross country once, and I was entering 45 degree to the downwind for the runway I was going to land on, and I was number 3. I could see an airplane turning base, and I could see an airplane on downwind ahead of me. So I made my radio call, Winter Haven traffic, Cessna 12345, entering 45 to the downwind for runway 5, number 3, traffic in sight, Winter Haven traffic. That tells everybody all they need to know. The traffic ahead of me knows I see them, I'm falling in line, everything's good. The airports that are also using that same frequency don't think I'm at their airport. Life is good, but there was a pilot sitting at the hold short line for the runway. Now that person has nothing to say. They might, at a towered airport, make the call, Piper Cherokee 12345, holding short of runway 5. And that would be appropriate at a towered airport. But at a non-towered airport, there's nothing to say. But that's not what happened. The pilot, for reasons that escape my understanding, decided to push the button and start talking. What he did was share his itinerary for the day. He pushed that button and told us his call sign. He told us where he was going for the day. He told us what he was going to do when he got there. He mentioned the person in the airplane with him. He talked for so long that I was on short final when he let go of the button. 2 airplanes had landed ahead of me without the ability to make a radio call because somebody was going on and on and on about things that nobody needs to know. If you're leaving your hangar and taxiing across a non-towered airport over to the fuel farm, you don't have to tell anybody that. If you're taxiing from the fuel farm over to the run-up area, you don't have to make a radio call. If you're entering the runway to take off, that's when you make your radio call. Important information that's pertinent to other pilots, whether they're on the ground or in the air, that's something you make a radio call about. And of course, at a controlled airport, you're going to deal with ground control and tower, and maybe even clearance delivery if it's busy enough, and you'll do it all through the radio. But in every case, no matter who you're talking to, no matter how dense or sparse the traffic in that airspace, you're going to be saying who you are, where you are, and what you want. Just remember, when you're using the radio, be concise, be specific, and be gone. That's really all there is to it. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Leave a comment down below if you agree or if you disagree. If you have better advice than ordering pizza, I'm up for listening to it. Let us know how we're doing by clicking that like button and sharing the video. And of course, we'll be back soon with more content that costs you not one dime right here on your personal device.